Saturday, August 16th, 2025, started like any other summer day in Chicago, hot, humid, and full of plans. The sun shone brightly over the tall buildings, and the morning air was filled with laughter and the footsteps of people starting their day. There was no sign that this day would be any different from the ones before. The city buzzed with weekend energy. Families headed to festivals, games, or just relaxed at home. Kids ran around in parks, couples enjoyed coffee at cafes, and sports fans cheered in stadiums. The atmosphere was full of hope and excitement, as if the whole city was celebrating an endless summer. The weather forecast mentioned storms, but that was normal for summer in Chicago. Many just glanced at their TV screens or phones, treating the warnings as routine. After all, heavy rain and lightning were part of life in this city, and they usually passed quickly. However, no one expected what was coming, a force that would turn an ordinary day into a night of chaos. Slowly, the sky began to change color. Dark clouds hung low on the horizon, creating an uneasy feeling that was hard to explain. As evening approached, the sky grew darker. Clouds gathered, signaling something far more threatening than a passing shower. The wind began to blow harder, carrying the smell of wet earth and electricity in the air. People started to notice these changes. Some hurried home while others stayed, hoping the storm would pass quickly. The first heavy raindrops hissed on the pavement. The air became eerily silent, the last calm before the storm. The once busy streets slowly emptied. Only the sound of rain could be heard, marking the beginning of something extraordinary. In an instant, the city would be plunged into a relentless battle against the elements. Lightning flashed, wind howled, and rain poured down relentlessly, testing the resilience of every corner of the city and its residents. What happened next would leave an unforgettable mark on thousands of lives. A day that began with hope and happiness turned into a story of bravery, loss, and the strength to rise again from an unexpected disaster. The storm hit in two punishing waves, bringing chaos the city hadn't seen in years. The sky turned dark, and the air was thick with tension, as if the whole city was holding its breath, waiting for what was to come. The first wave came with little warning, between 2 and 6 in the afternoon, catching many off guard. In minutes, streets turned into rushing rivers, water flowing fast between trapped cars. Wind gusts reached 60 miles per hour, ripping branches from trees and sending light objects flying. Hail the size of marbles pounded cars and homes, breaking glass and damaging roofs. After the first storm passed, things became calm. But this calm was deceiving, a short break that made residents hope it was all over. Many started to come out of their homes, checking for damage and cleaning up debris, not knowing the threat that was still lurking. Around 7 in the evening, the second wave arrived with even more power. Lightning flashed nonstop and dark clouds covered the city again. This time the storm was more organized, more fierce, and even more damaging than before. Emergency alerts sounded across the area, sirens wailed, and warning messages flooded people's phones, urging everyone to quickly find shelter in a safe place. The non-stop heavy rain caused flash flooding, overwhelming the city's drainage system. Water spilled onto the streets, submerging low-lying areas and forcing many families to move to higher ground. Strong winds returned, this time targeting structures already weakened by the first wave. Damaged roofs were ripped off, old trees fell, and debris flew through the air. The storm's siege lasted for hours, forcing entire communities to stay indoors. Fear and worry filled the night, while the sounds of wind and rain kept pounding against windows. By the end of the night, the storm had shown its full power. It controlled everything, leaving the city in darkness and an eerie silence. As dawn broke, the area prepared to face a new reality. Residents waited anxiously to see how much damage would be revealed when day arrived, and how they would begin to recover from the 2 waves of chaos that had just hit. The most damaging part of the storm hit without warning, bringing the incredible power of nature to this usually quiet neighborhood. In just seconds, the storm slammed into a 60-unit apartment building in Mount Prospect, turning it from a safe place into a mess. Residents who were resting were suddenly shocked by a loud boom. The building's roof was ripped off by a super-strong microburst, sending debris crashing down into the parking lot below, hitting cars and causing panic. The top floor of the building was now wide open to the wind and rain, with no protection at all from the missing roof. Heavy rain immediately poured into the apartments, soaking furniture and personal items. Ceilings fell, fire alarms blared loudly, and chaos broke out as water flooded the hallways, making residents run for safety in the middle of the panic. In a matter of minutes, the place that had been home and shelter turned into a disaster zone full of uncertainty. Officials quickly arrived, and the building was declared unsafe to live in. The entire area was taped off to keep people out. 60 families were forced to leave into the stormy night, carrying what they could, leaving memories and safety behind them. Outside, residents stared in shock at the gaping hole where their roof used to be, finding it hard to believe what had just happened. Their lives changed in an instant, forced to face the harsh truth that their homes were gone in the blink of an eye, not from slow damage, but from one powerful gust of wind. The emotional impact was huge, leaving deep scars in the hearts of the victims who lost everything in one night. In every disaster, personal stories show the real loss. Helena Zielinski lost almost everything when her roof disappeared. All she had left were the clothes she was wearing. Camille Serimac described the darkness, the alarms, and a waterfall pouring through the collapsed ceiling. All over the suburbs, families huddled in their basements, worried about their homes and loved ones. The fear was real, fear of loss, of the unknown, of what the morning would bring. For many, the emotional impact of the storm lasted long after the winds died down. These stories of loss, fear, and survival are the human face of the storm. They remind us how quickly life can change. The damage stretched far beyond Mount Prospect. In Des Plaines, old trees fell onto homes and cars. Lyle was underwater. 2.5 inches of rain in 45 minutes turned streets into canals, trapping cars and flooding basements. In Belvedere, a huge tree fell on a family's house. In Woodstock, emergency teams rushed to broken power lines that sparked on wet streets. Aurora, North Aurora, and Lockport faced their own floods and wind damage. Each community had its own problems, but together they formed a besieged area. The storm ignored boundaries, uniting the area in a shared struggle. It was a night the Chicago suburbs wouldn't soon forget. As the storm raged, power went out across the region. Wind and falling trees knocked out power lines, plunging tens of thousands into darkness. At the storm's peak, over 68,000 ComEd customers were without power. For families, the silence of dead appliances was unsettling. For the vulnerable, it was dangerous. No electricity meant no news, no lights, and no way to know what was coming next. Navigating debris-strewn, unlit streets became dangerous, with downed power lines hidden in the darkness. The blackout turned neighborhoods into hazardous landscapes. The storm revealed how dependent and vulnerable we are to the flow of electricity. The storm didn't just damage stuff, it brought the city's life to a halt. The sold-out Savannah Bananas baseball game was put on hold, and the Taylor Street Italian Festival was called off because of the rain. Vendors packed up, streets were empty, and summer fun just disappeared. Flash floods turned streets into lakes, trapping drivers and messing up public transportation. For many, getting home became a real struggle. The storm was a big equalizer, messing up everyone's plans. Schedules and routines were washed away by nature's timeline. Chicago stopped, humbled by a summer night stolen by the storm. In the middle of all the mess, heroes showed up, firefighters and police, and paramedics rushed into danger. In Mount Prospect, Deputy Chief Tom Wang's team helped 60 families get out of a broken building, making sure no one got hurt. First responders became lifesavers, giving people hope and safety. The community came together, opening the Recplex as a shelter and making sure those who had to leave their homes were comfortable. Volunteers worked all night helping families get in touch with their loved ones and start getting back on their feet. All over the towns nearby, neighbors checked on each other, cleaned up fallen stuff, and shared what they had. This effort from everyone showed the true heart of the community. Even though homes were damaged and the power was out, no one was alone. As dawn broke, the full extent of the storm's damage was clear. Trees were down, houses were broken, and there was stuff everywhere. For many, the journey to rebuild had just begun. The storm was a lesson in being humble and how easily things can change, showing how quickly life can turn upside down. But strength showed up. Survivors like Helena Zielinski, first responders, and countless acts of kindness. The unbreakable spirit of the community shone through. Recovery will take a long time, but Chicago and its suburbs will get through it together. The storm of August 16, 2025, will be remembered for the strength it showed. In the end, the heart of the community held strong.